Ooh. Hello and welcome, everybody. I am joined by none other than our good friend Amedeo Castorino, who's going to walk us through another wonderful lap. This time, we're going to be in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to be at the Zandvoort track. Anything that you got to add for us, Amedeo, before we get started?
That's good evening to everyone. I mean, probably afternoon for you guys. It's night right here in my place. So, like, depends in which part of the world you are. And yeah, I mean, will be another interesting track guide for sure. It's a pretty technical track. Like, you don't have very difficult corner like Monpanorama where you can completely lose your car, but it's still easy to lose a lot of time in this track. So we will find out like how to improve your laps today.
We're looking forward to it. It's a tight and twisty circuit for sure. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of details that we're going to need to cover. So, without any further delay, let's get to seeing how we're going to do it, Amedeo. Walk us through turn one.
Sure. So we come into the straight and turn one breaking point. It's you can take different breaking point here as a brake marker. Um, you have the 100-meter board on the left. Basically, you brake a little bit before it from your POV. Yeah, it's a bit before it, basically. About 10 meters. It's not that precise, but I mean, it's more or less there. You can take also just a little bit after this Fanatec marker also as a braking reference, and you can take also the red and white line here. It's always about a reference, not precise because it's always like I have to brake 20 meters before it, but you have a lot of reference here, so you can use what you prefer. I use more this 100-meter board and the red and white line. I use pretty much both. I don't use the board. This board I don't use personally, but if you want, you can use that as well. Um, then turn one, you want to go into the apex also very soon. You make of course 100% here. Also use all the track as you can see. You are using all the millimeters of the asphalt, like you are very near to the grass. A common mistake could be don't use all the track here. So go also over the white line with two tires here for have a better line. Uh, then you can brake 100% for a lot of time. In the last phase, you start to tail brake. Like as a reference, you can take this board on the right. Um, this wait, this whiteboard on the right, you can take as a reference.
Okay.
That's pretty much a spot where you start to release the brake, but depends, like could be a bit sooner after, depends with how much speed you are carrying in that moment, but it's a reference for see more or less when you should start to trail brake. Then, as you can see, you go very tight from the first momentum, like you take the apex very soon here. Also, you carrying the brakes for a lot of time for making the car rotate faster. Also, because again, these GT4s are very lazy cars, so you need to force a lot the car for rotate it. So you are very aggressive with the steering wheel. You are very aggressive with tail braking, especially because these are very long corners. So it's very important to tail braking a lot, keep a bit of braking pressure into the corner, and pretty much you stay always tight for all the corner. And the throttle application, you don't have a precise marker also because depends on your line. It's pretty much on the middle of the corner. Also, in that case, I went on throttle very soon, but very aggressively. And as you can see, I make rotate the car on throttle. Like I was very aggressive on throttle for put like an oversteer on throttle, and it helped me to rotate the car. If you don't have the confidence for do that, it's better maybe to wait a bit more for go on throttle, but don't do the mistake like of putting the throttle like here about at 20%, 30% because it's a very low pressure and that will make you just understeer into the corner, so you will have to wait a lot of time for make the car rotate because if you go just a little bit on throttle, the front of the car will be raised, so you will have also less aerodynamic, less energy on the front tires because the load will go to the rear, so it's always more stability, less responsive from the front. So if you go on throttle here, but by just a little bit, you are just inducing understeer.
Okay.
So better to maybe to wait a bit more if you are not confident by make the car rotating oversteer on throttle. Just maybe wait a bit more when you are sure the car rotates at all, and then you can go aggressively on throttle. It's always better maybe wait a bit more, but go aggressively on throttle, because if you go very soon on throttle by only a few percentage, as I said, you will have understeer.
It sounds like you
So
almost want to treat this corner like a V, to where you want the first half of it to all be the deceleration and then not get on throttle until the last part of the corner, where you're really just decelerating and slowing down for the first part. And like you said repeatedly, the last thing you want to do is get on throttle early at 20%. Otherwise, you'll just be sitting with understeer, right?
yeah, it's not a big V line, but yeah, because as you can see, you are very tight to the apex in the first phase. You go a little bit wide, but it's not a big V lines here. But yeah, like the characteristic, it's like that you have a fast entry tight, you are slow in the middle of the corner for be fast on the exit. That's how you approach this corner. So it's not big because you are not going very wide for then cross again, but yeah, it's a bit of a V line. Also because as you can see, like in the middle of the corner, my car it's a lot straight for the exit. That's because of the small V line that I'm doing, because I'm braking a lot on the first phase, carrying a lot of speed on the entry, stay very tight, going a little bit wide in the middle of the corner for be again tight on the exit. That what you want to do a bit on in this corner. And I made it by making rotate a lot the car by trail braking and by a lot of aggressive on throttle and making oversteer on throttle. Also, the gear that you use, it's third gear, because if you downshift to second gear, you will lock up the rear tires because you have a lot of RPM, so the differential is locking. So you lose stability, and also you will have to shift again very soon to third gear, so you are losing also the time to upshift. So it doesn't work to stay in second gear with Aston Martin GT4, but I think with also with most of GT4 it's a third gear corner, this one.
Okay.
For the exit, then you use all the track as possible. So you want to to steer less as possible and use all the track, as you can see. Like I'm also a bit over the curb. Use everything. Like you paid for beyond track, use all of it. So then we go to turn 2 and 3. Here, common mistake could be don't use this curve, but you want to use it a little bit, not too much, because if you go over this gray area, you will have a bit of bouncy when you will rejoin on track, because as you can see, it's not a flat curve, but this part is flat when I'm with my tires. And then you can see that's a bit of like uphill here. So if you go in the gray area, when you will come down again, your car will bounce, so you will lose time. So just use the curve by going only a bit over this curve, but don't exaggerate. Um, as a braking reference, I don't have one, but I don't think you will have a precise reference. You can brake a bit before the end of the curve, I will say, but it's not that precise as you can see. But it's the only reference that you can pretty much find. You can see also the motorsport.com on the left, but it's not precise as well, and it's too much on the left for watch it. So I think the best thing is take the end of the curve, brake about 20 meters before it. That's the reference that you can use. Um, then you don't downshift here. You stay in fourth gear, because you again, if you downshift, you will have instability because the car will lock up the tires, and you will lose time for upshift again. So it's just more easy and smooth to like that, because you are not putting like extra thing to do in the car, or it's a lot more simple. Also, don't brake too much here, like about 70-80% it's enough. Don't brake too much. You just want to carry the momentum in this corner, because it's not that very slow corner. So, and also because of GT4 doesn't have a lot of power, so you always want to carry the momentum as much as possible, and also you can run very wide to the exit of this corner, as you can see. You can go on throttle and running like basically at the limit of the curb in the exit again. Also there, don't touch the inside curb. Just aim to stay at maximum over the white line with your tires, because again, also this curb it's not flat, so you will have the same problem by going over it, because when you will go down, like your car will bounce, so you will lose time because you will touch the ground. Um, Then on the exit, use again, as I said, all the track and aim a bit to the right for prepare the left corner. I mean, not much, because then I mean you have to brake. So just turn a bit on the right. Then when you start to brake, of course, you stop to turn on the right. You try to prepare a bit this corner, but don't compromise too much by going too much on the right. Like the best thing is carrying more speed as possible here. So even if you enter this corner by a very tighter line, there is no worries, is worth it. So make sure to carrying a lot of momentum here. Brake reference you can take um, after the end of the curve of the left, the reference, or um, when the Assetto Corsa Competizione sponsor ends, basically when the wall became without sponsor on the right, is another reference that you can take. Here you can brake aggressively but very quickly, like I'm hitting 95 100% for just a moment. Then you want to tail brake a lot, about 20%, because you want agility on the front of the car, but you want also to make it rotate. And also because your speed is very low, if you brake too aggressively, you will lock up your tires easily. So that's why I'm braking very aggressively and then releasing pretty quickly the brakes. But don't release it completely or you will lose all the rotation. Also, you can go very aggressively with the steering wheel again, also in this corner, for try to force an oversteer on entry, because this car is very lazy. Again, don't downshift to second gear, stay all the time in third gear for the same reason that I said before. Um, and also this corner, you want to stay always very tight on the entry. Stay very, very tight, and then at the end of the curve, of the inside curve here, you can start to open your steering wheel and go much more aggressively on throttle and use all the track basically. Because if you run wide sooner, you have also a bit of cambers that are putting you wide, and probably you will have to lift later, because this corner is closing very aggressively on exit, as you can see. It's quite easily to go over the grass. So make sure to um, don't go throttle too soon and induce understeer. Same reason as turn one, basically. Like I went very aggressively on throttle here for rotate the car, but it's not an easy thing to do because it's quite easy to lose the car. At, and because also I'm still steering a lot my steer wheel. And yeah, the end of the curve it's when basically you are start to go a bit straighter with your steering wheel for put under the ground your traction, your power. And yeah, that's about it of sector one. Of course, again, you use all the track here. Yeah, if there are no question about sector one at all, we can go ahead.
No
Uh,
questions
l-
for me.
okay, all good. Like here also, you want to stay very tight for make less meter as possible. Stay very tight in this line. Also prepare a little bit this left corner because it's a easy flat out corner if you do the right line. But if you like go in the middle of the track here too soon, like you will have understeer and you will lose time. So make sure to prepare very good also this corner by stay as much as you can on the right here, as you can see. And then basically you start to turn in a bit before this brown patch on the right. You want to stay also tighter as possible here over the inside curve on the left. As you can see, I'm just tapping it a little bit. You don't lose time, but you don't go. You want to go too aggressively over this curve because, again, the first part it's a bit flat, then will be more high, so you will lose time. Then on the right, basically here you stay in the middle of the track. You don't cut too much on the right, and you don't want to go too much to turn in too late, because then you will have understeer here in this high speed corner, because the GT4 doesn't have a lot of aerodynamic. And for turning reference is basically the end of this asphalt patch on the left here.
Okay.
This one, when the grass begins, basically you are starting to turn in, as you can see, just about 20-30 degrees, no more. Then here you brake at the end of the curve on the left. Basically, you start to brake and you want to brake straight, as you can see, I mean, with less steering angle as possible, for have more surface of the tire that are touching the asphalt, so you will have more grip, basically. Uh, Again, you brake 100%, but for a very short moment, braking 100%, then release very quickly the brakes, because I need agility from the front. Also because I'm asking, like, the front tires have a lot of load in this moment, because you are turning in a very fast corner, so you have a lot of load on the front tires. So you want to brake a little bit for make the car rotate. You are loading also a bit more, but if you exaggerate, you will lock up the front tires probably, and you will have a lot of understeer. So don't exaggerate with the brake, but don't also brake like 0%. Like, you need to brake a little bit anyway for make the car rotate. Um, Then you want to stay very, very tight here to the inside line. Um, and as a reference for going on throttle here, you can take like I mean, I don't remember the name,
The green
but
light.
yeah, the gray light, basically, yeah. It's a good spot for going on throttle. And again, if you like, make sure to don't overshoot the entry here, because if you overshoot the entry, um, it's quite easily firstable to go into the gravel, because the road is pretty small. Um, it's not wide, and you will have also to wait a lot of time for going off throttle if you went wide here, so you will lose like easily half a second. So make sure to have a easy entry, that make you allow to easy take the apex and stay very tight for all the line. So maybe you can brake also a bit before the end of the curve here, like basically a bit on the middle, and you want to stay very sure to hit the apex. And also, as a turn in spot, like yeah, I'm already like turning a little bit on the right, but the point where you start to turn in more aggressively is basically this asphalt patch. When it start, you are steering a lot more. I mean, yeah, you are basically in the middle of when the asphalt patch start and end, because it's a very small asphalt patch. So that's pretty much the reference.
Okay.
Then you go throttle, and you can, if your line is fine, you can basically smash the throttle by 100%, because you don't have issue about traction here, because you have a lot of speed, so you don't lose traction here. The only issue could be the understeer, so maybe you don't want to go full throttle, uh, because you will not complete the corner if your line isn't perfect. But about traction, don't worry about it. Um, Then you upshift to fifth gear there. Also, this is a pretty tough corner. As a braking reference is a bit later than this white line. You start to brake, and also you want to use all the trackers, as you can see. Like, don't do the mistake to go straight after this little kink. Like, go a bit on the left, so you have more track to use for the right corner later. Because as you can see, I'm starting to the left for going to use this small part of the track. Then turning very quickly on the right a little bit, not too much, because you are braking very aggressively here. So if you steer too much with too much braking, you will lock up the tires. Then you need to trail brake a lot here for making the car rotate, and you can clearly see how the trail braking is making the car rotate a lot, because I have also to do a small correction, because I have a lot of rotation from that trail braking. So yeah, that's the key with GT4. Like if you are very good on tail braking, you will gain a lot because it's the only way for make the car rotate. Downshift to third gear, upshift again to fourth gear. That was because I want a bit more stability here, by have a higher RPM, but you can still stay on fourth gear. It doesn't matter here. Like it's more about personal preference. Also because I want to slow down a bit more in that phase, because if I tap the brake again here in that moment, probably I will unsettle the car because I'm putting the load again on the front by going a bit more aggressively again on brakes. So I choose to downshift in third gear for slow down the car by the engine brake. Then I upshift again to fourth gear because third gear was a bit too short. Also here you aim to stay tighter as possible, but ideally you don't want to touch this big curve, but just the small curve as I need. I will let you see. Basically, I'm very near to the big curve, but yeah, that's kind of perfect line. Like stay tighter as possible to this curve without touching it. And also the reference for going on throttle here, um, it's pretty complicated because there is not a good reference, I will say, because depends a lot also in how much rotation you put into the car. But I will say that a bit before of hitting this curb, it's a good spot. And also make sure to don't break over this curb, because if you break over this curb, the front will be more near to the ground. The suspension will have less travel to play with. So basically the car will absorb this curb more bad. So if you go on throttle, like you will have the opposite thing. Like the front of the car will be more distant from the asphalt, and the suspension will have more travel. So if you go on throttle before hitting the curb, it's always better for have more stability and lose less time, of course.
And you're really just trying to carry a lot of speed through this corner, right, Amedeo?
Yeah, I mean, in every corner with the GT4, like you want to carrying as much speed as you can. Yeah, as you can see, like it's braking very smooth, making the car rotate faster and going off throttle again very soon. Like you don't want to brake late and slow down a lot the car because you don't have a lot of power from this car. So it's always the case carrying the momentum with the GT4s.
Okay.
Then on the exit, you use all the track again because you want the wider radius for the next corner. You stay very near to the left here. You want also to brake as straight as possible on the first phase. As you can see, I'm still straight, braking pretty much straight, and then I'm going very aggressively with the steering wheel in the last phase for try to make the car rotate here. Also, the breaking point here, you don't have a pretty much clear breaking point. Um, you can take this brown patch on the left, but it's not that easy to see. It's this brown patch, but yeah, it's very hard.
Very difficult
Uh,
to see that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't use a breaking reference here, basically. So because yeah, it's very hard to see this, but you can use a bit no, also the grip line you don't see clearly. So the only reference, but it's not that good, is this marker on the right, but it's very far from you. So maybe make break a bit careful here, but you can, if you are not confident without uh, your breaking point, break a bit sooner, but break more smooth, so you will not lose a lot of time. Because if you break a bit too soon and 100%, you over slow down your car and you will lose time. So maybe you can break about 50-60%, so you are more smooth and you don't lose too much time.
Okay.
Also, as I said, very aggressively with the steering wheel for try to make the car rotate. Also, again, into the curve, but try to don't hit also this curve. Especially, maybe you can just tap it a little bit with the right tires, but just a little bit also because if you go too much over this curb, like as you can see, like if you go over the curb and you eat the grass, you will have a big jump then because the curb is not flat. You have these triangles that you will let your car bounce. So try to don't hit the curb and do a wider line and carrying more speed as possible because that's the important thing with the GT4 again. You can go very aggressively on throttle, like you should have a lot of traction because you don't have a lot of power with this car. Just make sure to when you go aggressively on throttle, like to start to steer your wheel a bit less for have a easier traction. Then here, as you can see, I went a bit wider for put the power of the car under the ground. Then go as much as you can on the right and turn again on the left for prepare this corner because you want the bigger, the wider radius as possible. So you start to, I mean, you are still going on the right at the end of this curve. And after the end of the curve, basically on the left, I will show you maybe better. Basically, a bit later of this curve or the end of this wall, about 20 meters, you are start to go to turn into the left. Like actually, I'm going into the right because the angle of the car was pointing to the right, but I'm already turning to the left for prepare the corner because you have to anticipate everything. Also because the GT4 are quite lazy and quite slow to do change direction, so you have to anticipate a lot your input. Then it's a very hard corner that to do. Like you brake one time very aggressively, about 80-90%, and you release very quickly your brakes because it's easy to lose the rear here. And then, as you can see, I'm going very aggressively with the steering wheel for try to make the car rotate, and just keeping about 20-30% of braking power. And if you are confident, like you can do like as I made like a correction here because um, I will show you in slow down. Here I brake about 80%. I release the brake, steer a lot to the wheel, and then I'm going again a bit more aggressively on the brakes because that's about playing with the load transfer because the first brake was just for slow down the car here. Slow down the car. Then tray brake for have a bit of rotation, a lot of steering wheel. Then I saw that I was still understeer in this moment, so I was going a bit more into the brakes again for try to put a bit more load on the front for have rotation out of it. And yeah, that's worked as you can see because now I had oversteer, like my steering wheel is completely straight and the corner is a close corner into the left. So that because of load transfer. Because if you brake while turning, by not exaggerate, because if for example I went 100% instead of 50%, probably I just lock up the front tires because I exaggerate. But that's how load transfer works. So like you put more brake, like you put the load on the front, and you will have more oversteer because the rear is light and the front is loaded with more weight. So that's basically what you need to do is rotate the car also as soon as possible for have your steering wheel more straight as possible for the exit also because it's the exit of this corner is closing a lot. So you need to be sure also to slow down the car a lot on entry because on the exit then you will have to wait a lot of time for going off throttle. Brake reference, you can take the ambulance, the orange Marshall thing here. It's a bit before the Marshall. That's the reference that I use a bit before the Marshall for braking reference. And again, maybe slow down a bit too much the car on entry for stay tighter as possible over this curve. So you can go on throttle as soon as possible and use all the track on exit. I will show you also from a higher perspective so you can see better. So here you want to use all the track on the left. We will go slow down. Go like put the you want to put the power under the ground. So I was going a bit wide on the exit. Then go into the right for prepare the next corner into the left. Braking very soon, try to make rotate the car as soon as possible. As you can see, I'm basically drifting a little bit because you can see clearly that the front of my car is way more near to the inside curb than the rear of my car. So that's because I'm like a bit drifting with the car for making it rotate as faster as possible. So then you can go as soon as possible on throttle, and you can see also that here like you don't want to stay super tight on the first entry. Like I'm like 1 meter away from the inside curve, and I'm going like very tight only in the middle of the corner pretty much. Yeah, it's exactly on the middle of the corner where you want to take the apex. um, and basically it's also when you want to go on throttle, and then you also use all the track for the exit for try to put the power under the ground.
Okay.
uh yeah, if there are no questions we can go to the next sector.
No question, sir.
All good. Okay, we have this small straight. um Brake reference is basically the white line. You brake just a bit later than the white line that you can see on the asphalt. I will show you by freecam. Yeah, basically when you don't see it anymore, you brake. Brake also very straight again, downshift to third gear. Also here you want to rotate the car a lot on entry by going very aggressively with the steering wheel. Also turn in point is the end of the curve on the left that you can see here. Is when you start to turn in, because you want also to touch a bit this curve. I mean, not a bit, but at the end, quite aggressively, I will say. Um, Also, yeah, try to stay with the left tires um, in the track by like you don't want to go with four tires over the white line because you will take a track limits. And also very important, as I said before, you can clearly see, start to go on throttle before taking this curve because this curve is very high, and by going off throttle will be a lot easier to take this curve. So you need to make sure to hit the throttle pedal before hitting this curve. If you are struggling to hitting this curve, you can also maybe brake a little bit later and start to turn in a bit later, and don't hit the bigger curve, but just make a wider line. You will lose a bit of time, but it's around 1/10. It's not the end of the world if you struggle to hit this curve. But yeah, just make sure to go on throttle before hitting this curve. And you want also to have a very fast entry here because you don't need to prepare the corner on the left. As you can see, like I'm completely um, doing a fast entry. I'm not preparing this corner on the left because my line is completely compromised, because the corner is very, very long. So you don't need to prepare on the right also because you don't have much enough space for prepare this corner. And yeah, I mean, will be more the time that you lose on entry than what you will gain on exit here. So you want to sacrifice the exit in the first corner here for have a fast entry. Then you brake a bit before the start of the curb here on the left. Don't brake too aggressively because you don't need to slow down the car too much, brake about 50%. Stay in third gear. You can go also a bit over the green area. The car will be a bit more unstable, but you can do it. It's not the end of the world, but yeah, it unsettled the car a little bit because the curb is not flat. So if you want a more stable car, don't go over the green area, but turn around it. Then you can go a bit wider on the middle of the corner. It's a bit as very small V line again for close on the exit and going on throttle very aggressively. When you don't close that much because the corner is not long enough for like closing again, but as you can see, like you go a bit wider on the middle of the corner, then going on throttle, you close a little bit and then you go wide for like make easier traction here. And it's all about third gear this corner again with Aston GT4, but I think most GT4 it's all third gear because second is too short with most of GT4s. We'll also show by the free cam again because it's not a easy line to understand. Okay, you go very aggressively over the curb here, as you say. Very fast entry, you sacrificate a bit the entry of this corner. You go a bit wider on the middle of the corner for prepare as better as you can the exit from it.
Beautiful view.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it about this corner. And we go to the last two corners. You want to prepare again as better as possible. As you can see, I'm very, very near to the grass here on the left. Um, you break about 80%. You don't need that 1%, but you can do it. Just don't slow down the car too much. So you brake aggressively and then you start to release the brake very, very soon. You want a bit to trail brake a lot into the corner for rotate the car. Here you don't go too much aggressively with your steering wheel because the corner is quite open, so you want also to carrying the momentum. Stay in fourth gear with the Aston GT4. Maybe Aston GT4 could be third gear. You have to try this one because if you don't manage to have enough speed, like maybe fourth gear will be a bit too low on RPM, so you will not have enough torque. Here, maybe stay a bit more careful on throttle application because you want to aim to hit the inside curb. Also, you can go also in the gray area, but it will be a bit more unstable if you go in the gray area. So make sure maybe to play a bit safe here with the throttle because it's easy to have a snap oversteer here, and you don't want to because you want to carrying the speed as much as possible. Also, as a brake reference, you can take the Marshall on the right here. It's quite tough to see, but it's the only braking reference that you can take. It's a bit later than it, or you can take a bit sooner than the curve. But I mean, I will say a lot sooner before the start of that curve. Then um, for throttle application is basically the middle of the corner here. You go throttle again, you don't have a clear reference. Also, you use all the track, completely all the track. You go like very, very near to it the gravel. So yeah, the K in this turn is carrying the momentum. Don't slow down on entry too much, but especially try to go on throttle as soon as possible because then you will have also not a long straight, but a good straight after this corner. Very important for last corner. Stay as much as possible on the left here because you can do flat out this corner. It's not easy, but you can do it if you do the right line. Stay like completely on the left also after the end of this gray area. Like I'm still completely on the left as you can see, but try to don't hit the grass because you will lose a bit of responsive from the front of the car because you will have, of course, less grip over the grass. So don't go over the grass, but yeah, that's basically use all the track here. Um, you already start to turn in a little bit. Yeah, stay as much as possible on the left here, and then after this gray area and then the grass start, you can start to turn in more aggressively as you can see, and aim to stay very tight, and you can do it flat out to the last corner. It's not easy because as you can see, like I was very on the limit. It can depends about also what setup are you using. For have more rotational throttle like that, you can basically make stiffer the rear of your car by if you have a stiffer bump damping or a stiffer wheel rate, bump stop rate, or add more rake. That's how we have rotation, especially on throttle. Um, and yeah, you can gain a bit by doing it flat out. And but if you have to lift the throttle, take as a ref because you have understeer because it can depend also about which GT4 you have. The reference will say is lift a bit before this curve and try to don't lift much, like about going about 70% of throttle for one moment and should be enough for complete the corner in the right way. And yeah, make sure to don't turn in too late because then you will not able to hit the apex, but don't turn in also too soon because then you will hit the curb too hard and you will lose time. And on the exit here, even if you go on the grass with two tires, don't worry, it's not a problem. Like as you can see, I was on the grass here, but also if half of your car is on the grass, you don't lose time. It's better to carry more momentum and going into the grass. The important is that your right tires are on track, like don't go over the white line and the lap is white. Uh, yeah, so this is the lap if there aren't any question. Um, I will say maybe where you can overtake.
Yes,
Um,
please.
as a overtake spot, we have turn one, of course. Um, yeah, I think the inside line is the best one also because if you are side by side on the exit of this corner, you will have the inside for turn three, and on the outside here, it's very hard to stay side by side on the outside here. So I think it's better to stay in the inside for turn one. Maybe on the start, it's better to try a run on the outside because very usually when you have a hairpin in turn one, especially if you are starting in the middle of the group, it's easy to see like a bottleneck in the inside. So maybe the outside line can work here also because you can carrying a lot more speed. But yeah, that's a corner where you can send it also because the track it's very wide here, so you have a lot of space for try to do a move. But I mean, I will say maximum when you are 1/10 behind the car in front, maximum two. But if you're 2/10 behind the car in front of you, it's a very hard anyway to try and overtake. It's very risky. So when you are, I mean, side by side or maximum 1/10 behind the car in front of you, you can try and overtake. If you are 2/10, I think it's the limit, but you are still, there are high chances that you will not complete your move by when you are 2/10 behind the car in front. And that's the first spot. The other spot where you can overtake, um, I will say you can try something here if the car in front of you made a mistake. Like you can try to go in the inside here because the track is very wide here. Um, Also because if you go on the inside here, the outside line is not working. So it's always better to have the inside here because you will compromise the exit of the car that is on your outside. But yeah, here only if the car in front of you made a mistake and you're side by side, like don't try to send it even if you are just 1/10 behind the car in front, only if you are side by side.
Okay.
And then also at the end of this straight, um, here the outside line is working pretty well because on the outside you can brake later, avoid the inside curve, and then you will have the inside in this corner. And you can brake very late also because you can go with half of your car over the green area because yeah, you will unsettle your car a little bit, but it's nothing tragic. So I think it's better to have the outside line here for defend the position or for trying to do a move because the inside you have basically to complete the corner before this moment because then it's very hard that you keep an overlap on the outside here. So without a contact, it's very hard, and it's also easy to have a contact side by side here because of this curve because there are high chances when you hit this curve you will understeer to the other car. So if you are on the inside, make sure to slow down a bit more because then you will have understeer by hitting the curb. So you don't want to hit the car on your outside. And if you are the car on the outside, make sure to give enough space of the car in your inside here because of that reason. And yeah, that's pretty much your overtaking spot. This corner, it's not enough hard braking phase, so it's not an overtaking spot.
Now,
And
how
yeah.
would you get something set up for turn one if you were to use the last corner? If someone's making a mistake in the last corner, can you scare them into going slower through the final corner to get a run on them down the front straight, or no?
Yeah, maybe you can also because on DRTA you will have more understeer, so it will be very tough to have a good exit. So maybe you want to lift the throttle around here, and then you will be able to go full throttle. But don't lift the throttle too soon because it doesn't have like when you want to lift the throttle, is basically on the middle of the corner is where it's helping you more to rotate the car. So don't do it too soon, but don't do it too late, or you will lose your momentum.
Okay.
Um, yeah, also be very safe on the pit entry because it's very easy to overshoot the pit entry. So maybe try it a bit of times. You have also this wall as a reference. I mean, actually, don't remember where you have to brake for the pit entry, but make sure to try it because you have also to do a small assist. And you, if you overshoot the pit entry, like you will be punished very hard because you have a wall here. So make sure to have a easy pit entry. Don't overshoot it. Like probably you have also as a reference this white line. I don't know, you like if I don't remember if in that race you will have to do a pit stop, but in case, practice it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If there are no question, I guess.
No questions. You covered them all already. I think we're ready to go over a hot lap, Amedeo.
Yeah, sure. Cool, cool. So there we have the state and the start of the lap. As I said, the braking reference is around the 100-meter bolt here. Stay very tight. It's a bit of V line. You go a bit wider on the middle of the corner for prepare as better as possible. The exit all in third gear. Here use a bit of curb on the left. Don't touch the curb here on the right because it will unsettle your car. Downshift to third gear. Stay very tight for all this hairpin and open your steering wheel for the exit for have a easy traction. Then stay very tight on the right here for prepare the left corner that is flat out of, but without a good line you will have understeer. Here you brake at the end of the curb on the left. Stay very tight for all the corner in fourth gear. You can go on throttle very aggressively. Also here make sure to use all the track on the left. Trail brake better as possible for make rotate the car. Here you downshift to third gear, stay very tight to the inside curb, but don't touch it too much because it will unsettle your car again. Here slow down the car a lot, the car on entry for make rotate as fast as possible, and stay very tight for prepare the exit and use all the track on the exit. Then we go for this small straight, you brake a bit before the start of the curb on the left, hit the inside curb by going on throttle before hitting it for hit it better. Then prepare the exit here by going wide on the exit so you will have a easier traction. Then you stay in fourth gear for this corner, you can go on throttle, use all the track here. Don't turn in too soon for the last corner and you will be able to do it flat out, and that's the lap about Zandvoort. Yeah, we saw that the track wasn't that long, so there is not much corner, but you have some corner that are very technical, so it's very easy to lose or gain a lot of time. So yeah, practice a lot, guys, for some corners, and also put a lot of tension in the load transfer because that's the key on basically of sim racing, but especially with the GT4, they are doing a big play.
For sure. Thank you very much, Amedeo. I think you've answered all the questions that we had in chat today. You covered everything in great detail and no extra explanations required from me. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or anything else that you want to warn people about the Zandvoort track before we go back to the studio?
Um, Yeah, I think it's pretty much everything from this track. Just say good luck to everyone for the race, and I mean, just stay careful also by doing if you're side by side in this section. Like you will have to probably lift the throttle because especially with GT4 in the high speed corner you will have understeer. So also stay very careful because here the track is not that wide, and as you can see the guardrail is very near to you in the left here. So stay careful because it's easy to have a big damage and lose your race, so stay a lot careful here.
Fair enough. Stay careful to all the drivers, and I'm sure that they will. Thank you very much, Amedeo Castorino, for another wonderful lap guide. I don't see any further questions in chat. So, wherever you are, everybody in the world, thank you very much for joining us, for hanging out, and thank you for all the love and support that you're able to give Amedeo Castorino. Let's give him a wonderful
Thank you,
round of
guys.
applause, and thank you for all of his time that he spends to invest in the GT4 series that we have here at Tracklicious.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful night, and remember to always please stay safe. Bye.
Good night.